Hi, everybody. I'm Andra Annette, and I'm here with Allison Lines and Kyler Wiedemann. And we're here to talk about a very important topic, a very critical issue. And, a lot of times people hear about the victim story, and we have three survivors in the room. And we think that that message is really important to share also, that you too can get past anything that you really are going through in your life. There's no obstacles that you really can't overcome. So all of us do work with people to help them overcome one thing or another in their lives. People that have faced trauma or low self-confidence. Allison is a trauma coach. Kyla is an advocate for domestic violence, and I'm in healthcare. Who knew, right? So so we're going to talk a little and share a little bit about our stories, because we're many different people online. We're all in books, and books are a really powerful way to share your story and help with that healing process. And all of us have done that through our books. So we encourage you to really put your words down and really share your story with the world as well. So meet my guests, Kyla Wiedemann and Allison Lines. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Hey.
So we all know what it's like to be the victim, but I know that when I was in that situation, I would not allow someone to call me a victim. I didn't like that. My mother, as a child growing up, used to say there were no victims, there were volunteers. You allow people to treat you a certain way. So I'd like to share a little bit of our stories and what that was like, because people see us online, and I don't think people understand that you really can't judge a book by their cover. That we're so much more than what people see on a day-to-day, that we are real people. We go through real drama and experiences, and we usually fall into what we're doing to help people based on things that are very close to our heart, because we either experienced it or were close to someone that did, and it had a big impact on our lives.
Mm-hmm.
So which one of you ladies would like to go first?
I'll go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm Allison Lines. I'm so glad to be here today with both of you. It's lovely. And I just wanted to share a little bit about my story. I was in, let's see, like 3 toxic relationships, if not more, that spanned a total of about, we're going to say probably like 20 years over time, that I was really in like a cycle of toxicity. I couldn't get out of it. I didn't know what was going on, but I was with men who they wanted the control. Like I thought I was going to be in this fairy tale life, and what I ended up experiencing was just total and full control, where it was emotional abuse. It was like I would never know what would happen from day to day. And I lived that. And it was so, it's so hard to explain. Like, you don't want to say you're a victim. And, like how you said that, Andra, like it's so powerful that you like volunteer, because that's essentially what it is. Like you're saying, you volunteer to be, to bring these people into your life, but it's a lot harder than that actually is. Like when you think about it, these people came into your life under other things, like, they were manipulators. They might have been narcissists, all of those things. They might have had mental health issues. Quite a few of mine had mental health issues that I found out later on. But it was like those experiences, which some of them were truly frightening. Like the one man towards the end, he was one of my ex-husbands, and he tried to point blank kill me and kill himself. And he thought that was the answer to the problem. And it wasn't at all the answer to the problem. He needed mental health help. But it's so crazy, because in that moment you're like, oh, like, how do I get out of it? And you don't want to be the victim. You don't want to be that person, but it's like, it takes all your strength every single day.
You need to go.
Actually,
No, you need to go.
to actually, basically
Go.
get into where you are. Like you need to get into that space,
Go.
like that headspace of where everything's okay. And you can move forward
No.
to what you're going to do in your life. And then you
You
become
need to go
the
before I
true
spank your butt.
survivor of
Go.
what is actually
Go.
happening. And so
We're just listening to you, parents.
I know. I'm just like, wait, I lost my train of thought.
It's okay. Go ahead.
I need you to
We
leave
all
right
have
now.
kids. We know that kids come
Okay,
in
I will get you something to
exactly
eat
the
when I'm done.
time
Leave.
that you're trying to do something. I have a husband that's like that, so it's quite
It's so
okay.
true. This is real. This is real time. This is what
Yeah,
happened.
so sorry about that.
Yes, but I mean,
No.
you couldn't plan it better. It's okay. So go ahead, Allison. Continue, honey.
So anyway, like you don't want to be the victim. You want to be the survivor. And I want to show that I am the survivor, that I'm doing different things now. But at that moment in time, when I was in the bathroom and I was watching this man, like I was watching my life unfold before me, like how you have like these flashes of lights. And I'm thinking this man is standing outside my door with a butcher knife. And I'm like, what am I doing? Like, where is my life? Like, how did this happen? And you really go into that mindset of how do I survive this? Like, how do I get out of this? And what is my next step? And I said to God, basically, I said, if I get out of this alive, I will do everything in my power to make the world a better place, to help as many people as possible, to share my story, and I will elevate myself to the next level. I just need to get through this. And I did. I opened the door, I went out, cops were outside, I went down the stairs, he stayed there. And then he ended up in the cop car later at another point in time. But it was just like, I needed to get down the stairs. Like that was my goal, get down the stairs, don't look at him, don't do anything. And it seems so simple in the moment, but that was so scary. And that was so real that a person is trying to harm you in that way. And your whole point of escape is going down these stairs where he could come after you at any point in time. But you have to have the strength and conviction to go down the stairs so that you can get to that next level, so that you can get to that next step. And that's exactly what I did. When I got outside, I felt so relieved, and my parents were there. And then I moved back at that point in time, I moved back home to my parents again. And, it was just that feeling of, I survived this. I had dealt with so much for so long, and now I'm ready to move on. And from that moment forward, I made it a point to move on every single day. I made it a point to, discover things about myself, bring joy back into my life, journal, meditate, do all the things, help as many people as possible. And during that time period, I became an assistant manager at a bank. And I started my graduate program for my master's in business administration. And it just kept going from there. And I was networking and meeting people. And then you come present day, and I am still on a journey. We'll say that. We are definitely still on a journey.
We're gonna get into that a little later. Let's move to Kyla, because I want to hear Kyla's story too. We're gonna get into what we're all doing now. But I think it's important for people to see the transition. So Kyla, you want to share your story with me, please?
Yeah, so similarly, I call it a cycle. I was in a cycle of these abusive relationships over and over again. And basically, every single time that I would get away from one, I would say, it's never going to happen again. It's not going to happen to me. And I believed I'll never get a divorce. So I had all these beliefs and I had all these wants for myself and my life. I wanted a fairy tale as well. And so I was very, very picky about the men that I would date and the men that I would allow into my life. And so, it came to a head at a point. A little over a year and a half ago was the last relationship that I had. That was, it was probably one of the worse ones that I was in. And I just said, why does this keep happening? Why? And at that point, like I had to say, well, I can't blame everyone else because it keeps happening to me. And if things are happening in my life, it's something that I'm doing. And so from then, I've just been really learning why do these things happen? Why is it happening to unwilling women? Why is it happening to women that are so adamant about it not happening to? And so I've learned, certain beliefs and behaviors that we have that make us vulnerable, and wanting a fairy tale is one of those things. And I'm so guilty of that, wanting a fairy tale so bad, but it makes you vulnerable. And then the other layer to it is the tactics that the abusers are using. And they're, I don't know, there's not a lot of them, and they're kind of simple, but they're very effective. And they're detrimental to us, manipulation, gaslighting, abuse on every single level, because most people think that it's only abuse if it's physical, but there's so many different ways to get abused. And I say there's around 7. So physical, emotional, psychological, financial, sexual, spiritual, and then if you've been affected in any of those ways, your time is being abused. And so I like to say those are the 7 ways that we exist as a person. And so when you're in one of these relationships, they're taking over every single way that we are as a person, right? They're taking over everything we are, and they're manipulating it, and they're making us believe things that are not true. And it is just one of the worst situations that you can imagine. And so I focused a lot of my time on learning what makes us vulnerable, and then changing those vulnerable beliefs and behaviors to be a repellent to these types of people in the first place, because they're looking for certain types of women. They're looking for the women that have these vulnerable beliefs and behaviors, and ultimately boundaries, right? A lot of it comes down to, what are our boundaries around dating? And I know for myself, I asked, like, well, how do you even date? I don't even know, is there a strategy behind it? What are we out here doing, And I think that there's probably a lot of women out there that think the same way. And so I just like to teach, this is how you make yourself vulnerable to it. So just, let's not believe that. Let's believe other types of things. And a lot of it comes down to childhood, how we were raised in our childhood. And so it's so important to make sure that we are not passing those along to our lovely children. So that's kind of like where my work surrounds.
So I think it's important to mention, because a lot of women who have never experienced it say, I don't understand that, how they could live with that, where that can happen. And you mentioned something that I thought was really important. It happens over time. It starts with little degradation, tearing you down little by little, where you little by little lose your confidence and think it has to be you. So they're very good at manipulating. It's a big part of their makeup, but we have to accept responsibility too. So I'm gonna use that time to share that. So, I come from, a parent that was abusive, and I loved my mother to death, but she was very abused as a child. So she wasn't capable of really showing love. She didn't, later on in life, I mean, she got help, but she wasn't the kind of person to say that she loved you. So I think that I sought that out in other areas of my life. And I think that, like you, I wanted that fairy tale. I wanted that perfect marriage, like, because I didn't want what I was coming from. I wanted better. And I don't know. I did, I didn't have a lot of abusive relationships, but I had a few. And I think that a lot of it stemmed on that I didn't feel valued in my own family growing up. So I wanted that so much from other people, and I looked for that. I didn't have that confidence to begin with. So I was attracted to, like, I attracted those people because I showed that low self-esteem, like, do whatever you want to me. I'll take it, you know, and and those are the kind of people that were attracted to me. And I'm at, I was with my high school sweetheart, so to speak, and he was emotionally abusive, and physical. It got very physical at the end, and like Allison, I was left fighting for my life. I said, he had a problem with his pecker. He couldn't keep it in his pants, and I had women coming to my door. He wouldn't come home for days. I had women coming to my door telling me they might be pregnant, and I was like, well, you can have them. All kinds of stuff. And I called him at work one day and said, I didn't get married for this. I want a divorce. And I was against divorce because I felt like it meant, I don't know if I was against the concept of divorce as much as the concept of failure. Like, that to me meant I failed, and I didn't want to fail. And I don't believe God wants us to be punished either. So I woke up with a phone cord around my neck, and we hit every single corner of that house that night. And I wouldn't go back into my house for a couple of days because the blood was everywhere. And I couldn't stand to look at it. And I fought for my life. I heard my mother saying there are no victims, there are volunteers. And I said, I'm not volunteering for this anymore. I'm done. It's over. And I walked away better for worse for wear than he did, I'd like to say. I'm not a little pushover. But it was the first time I really, really, really stood up for myself. And, my mother also said, thus far and no farther, and that was the first time I said, okay, I've had enough. You're not entitled to shit on me, and, but I stayed by myself and I did that work because, like yourself, Kyla, I said, what about me makes it okay for people to think I deserve to be treated less than human?
Yeah.
And I stayed by myself. And I don't think that, like, looking back over all the years of my life, that I was ever not in a relationship. So I decided to take that time and have a relationship with myself and find out about myself and what I really wanted and what really made me happy before I entered into something else. It was during that time that I realized that a relationship is an extension of me. It doesn't make me or break me. It doesn't make me who I am. It's a nice extension, like jewelry. You can put it on, but you don't have to wear it to be whole. And I started doing that work, and it was a rough time. I met my now husband during that time, and I would not told him no, not dating. Sorry, not happening. So that changed later on, and we're still together all these years later. But I think it's important that we are a key to that. There's no acceptable reason to treat someone like less than a person. And there is a lot of mental health issues, and a lot of times they have dealt with trauma, just like we feel a need in them, just like they felt that need in us. We need that love and acceptance. And in the beginning, they're very, very nice and doting on us and treat us very special. That's what draws us in, and then all of a sudden it's like, who are you and what did you do with that man? So I get that, but there's two sides to that coin. They're feeling a need in us by giving us that love and acceptance that we were looking for and expected, even though it's temporary. And we're feeling a need in there they can control. So they probably come from a life that they were controlled. And this is their way of reasserting control. There's a lot of different reasons people abuse. I don't think any of them are acceptable. But I think that we need to talk more about it as women, because there are a lot of women out there, and we're very lucky women because we're here to tell this story. There are a lot of women that don't tell that story or don't live to tell that story, you know, and so I think that's important. What do you ladies think?
Yeah, 100%. I feel like, you know, I had a couple people like pre-read my story for Dream to Rise, the anthology I'm in, and like they were just like, wait, what? Like they had no idea the amount that I had actually gone through. Like they just thought I had been in toxic relationships, maybe I had some issues here or there, and like, you know, just a cycle. But it was so much more than just a cycle. And I think that was established from when I was younger, like you were saying, Andra. Like I had kind of this hot and cold relationship with my mom. And I grew up thinking I was going to have this beautiful, like fairy tale existence because I grew up in this beautiful home life with two incredibly loving parents. But then there are other things that you see as you go back and you evaluate, you're like, but I didn't have self-esteem when I was doing that. And I didn't really value what I was doing. And I wasn't following my passions. And there was this piece of me that was so guarded. And so with my mom now, I'm actually trying to mend that relationship currently, like the forgiveness and being more understanding. But I believe that that's where a lot of that came from, was from my childhood. I believe that's where I learned, because I was like, I really want this love, this, you know, this fairy tale land as we see it, you know, Disney, all of it. That's what we
Yeah.
see. We're just like, that's what we want. It's amazing.
I think every girl wants that, you know. You see that picket fence so clear, you know.
Yeah,
I
it
think we
is.
all want that. And there's nothing wrong with wanting a good relationship and to be loved and to be valued and appreciated for who you are. There's nothing wrong with that. That shouldn't be a dream. You know, that should be the low standard. The high standard should be much higher, you know,
Mhm.
because people deserve that. You
Yeah.
know, we deserve to be valued. We have real feelings, and we give real love. And I think women are a little better at sharing their feelings than a lot of men.
Mhm.
And I think that leaves us a little more exposed, because I don't know about you ladies, but after that, I was not so quick to share myself or my feelings with people. You know, trust before that was given, and then it had to be earned, you know.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, you know, for those people, it wasn't fair to them, but you know, you can only do so much and say no, because you're traumatized, you know, you are. You don't realize it until later on, but it does have a hold on you, and you're not so trusting. And some of that comes from your childhood too. You know, when we're growing up, that love, that belonging, that nurturing, food, water, all those basic necessities, if any of those aren't met regularly, there's a part of us that is traumatized by that. And whatever it is, it's different for everybody. It's like you were very loved. I mean, I was loved, but in a very different way than you were. You know, my mother loved me enough to make me work really hard for everything. You know, I want this and go work for it. You know, so but I don't appreciate her, because she was a strong influence in my life and made me into the woman I am today. You know, and I did mend my fences with her long before. But I think that these situations do have an impact on our lives. Certainly, they're still impacting our lives now, because here we are sharing about it, because we know that a lot of other women are out there suffering and hurting. And it takes a strong person to come out live. A lot of people might not think that, but to share, you know, the worst crap that happened in your life, to help other people, to make it okay for them to want to share and get that help, because you do need help. You know, whether you do it individually or you talk to someone, you do need to work through that, so that you don't keep that cycle alive. And Kyla, like you so eloquently said, pass it on, because we are a product of our environment. And if we don't get that out, we definitely pass it on, you know? So I think it's interesting that we're all in fields that help other people. You know, Kyla, you're an advocate. As a nurse, I'm an advocate, but I'm also in healthcare, you know, but you know, you fought for our country, you know. So everything we do is to help other people. You're a trauma specialist and you work with women survivors and in so many other ways. You're writing books, you spread the word. So, you know, that we took something really bad in our lives and we turned that around. And that's not always easy to do. So that's the message that I really want to share with people, that even when you're in your darkest place, there's always something good that can come out of it, you know? So, because a lot of people look at failure and for me, that was a failure. That wasn't a happy time. But whether it was mine or whether it was his, we both participated in there somewhere. You know, it takes two. So, you know, he could have shelved it out, but I accepted, right?
Mhm.
So I think it's important to really realize that this, you know, you really can't fail unless you stop trying and you give up, you know. So Kyla, you're all cool, quiet, my love. Tell me what
I'm just
tell me what you're thinking.
letting you guys talk. Yeah, so the statistics for domestic violence are the same now as they were back in the 80s. So what that's telling us is that it's not getting better, it's not changing at all. And I think a lot of the just like the science or the psychology behind it, we really don't know a whole lot, or we haven't until I think recently. So somebody that I will gobble up anything that she puts out on abusive relationships or anything is Dr. Dina McMillan. I listened to her podcast, Unmasking the Abuser. And she breaks down all of the tactics that abusers use, but she also breaks down the vulnerabilities of where we are vulnerable and how we have vulnerable beliefs and behaviors. So we've all talked about the fairy tale, right? And that makes us vulnerable because a lot of the women that are into the fairy tales, you know, they will kind of let things slide, or just be a little bit more accepting of certain things, right? And when you're accepting a little bit in the beginning, these types of people will just take all they can get after that. And so it's just important to understand, you know, like what those are, and make sure that we build proper boundaries around those things so that we're not allowing these to come back into our lives. But you know, if it is the case that we end up in another one, because I'm sure like a cycle is something that a lot of women are dealing with, and once you've been in one, you are even more likely to be in another one because of being susceptible, I guess, to tactics and having vulnerable beliefs. So it's really important to understand those. And I don't know, I'm just I write about it in my books, I'm very passionate about it. And I hope that I do not end up in another one. I'm currently single.
You
And
will
you know,
not. You will not. You know the
hopefully
signs.
not, you
You
know,
know the
but
signs.
again,
So
it's
that's
scary.
part
Yeah.
of it, you know. In my stories this month, I mean, I talk a lot about a lot of things that are passionate about me. And if anybody looks at my stories, they're probably saying, you know, are you sure she does good? So, but I don't care, because this is more of who I am, you know. I am that advocate all day long. I care about preventing, you know, death, disease, you know, and things like this from happening. So I am talking about that. And for the breast cancer awareness this month, I did like one of the BSCs where I show you how to do it on the slides. And you know, to know the signs of abuse, you know, because as a nurse, I saw this coming in and I could see it. And I would say to these women, you know, why are you taking this? Are you okay? And then I was going home to a similar situation. And I was like, why does this look so familiar? Why do I feel like I've been here before? Because I was leaving that at work and there was no difference. So what made me better? You know, because sometimes when you're in it, you don't see it. Those little digs and those little comments, and you're no good at anything, and those little things. And little by little, they break you down into where you really believe it's you. But, you know, I wouldn't be like this if I what? Finish that if I what? So, it's important to know that, and it's important to speak on that, and it's really important to work on yourself. Because if you have the confidence and you know that you're a valuable person and you're worth it, you know, then you're not going to let someone treat you like that. Certainly, you know, when I started my online business, nobody was in my corner. Everybody said to me, "You're crazy. What are you? You're in your 50s." And I said, "Too bad. I'm doing it. It's my time." So you start to grow, you know, some kahunas as you get older, and you stop caring about what people tell you, and you start going with your gut and really listening to your heart and following your heart. Because, you know, we have one chance in this world to really make a difference and really live the life that we want to live, you know, and not waste it. And all of us have been in a situation. I mean, just being in the services put your life at risk every day, but you went anyway. So now you have a whole life ahead of you to really start living and enjoying that. And I think that God brings people into our life when we're ready. You know, I certainly wasn't looking for this husband, and there he was. He wasn't going anywhere. So, but there he was, you know, and sometimes you have to fail before you have success. So there's that, but we do have to learn to trust ourselves and our decision making. So that was the worst part for me, because I didn't trust my decision making. If this is what I'm picking for me, then I'm way off base. So what do I got to do to change this around? Because from this to great man is a really big jump. You know, and until I could start figuring that out and setting those boundaries, I wasn't good at setting boundaries. I really wasn't, you know, I was that person that never said no. Andra, can you do this? Sure, why not? You know, so that was rough. Taking back that power in that one area started to make it easier to do it in other areas, because it wasn't not just in domestic violence. There are other different abusive relationships that we're also susceptible to. We are those pushovers where, you know, people are very demanding of our time and things like that. And that's abusive. That's abusive of our friendship. People do abuse that. And I had to let go of those toxic relationships too, that were not serving anyone but the person on the other side. Well, you know, I'm sure we've all had friends that expected you to jump whenever they needed anything, and if you called because you know you needed to cry, they were not there. You know, so it's about really getting rid of all of that toxicity in your life and saying, you know, I deserve so much better, you know. So you're working with people that trauma, you are helping advocate women and working with the women along that lines and helping them identify the signs. And I think there's such a need for both of you ladies out there. So tell us where they can find you, because there's a lot of women out there that really need your help.
Well, you can find me on Facebook under Allison Lines, and make sure, as I say, it's always the glitzy jacket, because there are apparently 2 of me on Facebook, but there's only 1 of me, guys, just 1. And then you can find me on Instagram at Style Love Dreams. You can also find me on LinkedIn at Allison Lines. And I just recently came up with a brand new website, which is AllisonSoulImage.com. And that's where you can find me.
I love that. Kyla, where can they find you?
Yeah, so I just put everything in a link tree. So if you search Legacy Women AF, you'll find my link tree, and that has all my socials. It has the books that I've been in, any projects that I'm working in. We have an upcoming course from Stuck to Unstoppable. It's going to be a 6-week course put together by Crystal Casey. And I'm teaching, I think in week 4, I have a whole day on domestic violence that I'll be teaching a course in. So yeah, you can find me on my link tree.
I love that. And Hannah, this is for you. I'm Annette, the most sought out woman in healthcare. You had to be in the room to understand that, ladies. And you can find me everywhere because I'm under every channel. So I'm either under my name, Annette, or Pounds to Go. And I want to thank you for coming in today and sharing so honestly and openly about your stories, because I know this is going to help a lot of women. Okay. So thank you,
Yeah,
ladies,
for
and thanks
sure.
everyone for watching.
Thank you so much, Andra.
Yeah, thank you.